or in my project, all the alarms are created in English, United States. So if we go back to the PM server, we see I have changed the language for the alarms to English, United States. If there are a difference between these two languages, it can be that you will receive the alarm, but without having any data inside of the alarm blocks, because the alarm blocks here are filled in English United States, and if I have not added some information into other languages, then I will not receive any data inside of the PM server because the languages do not fit there. So just for your information, so if you're missing some alarms or some data inside of the alarms, always check the language setting for alarms, and if they fit the setting inside of the alarm logging of your WinCC system. And if you want to work with semantic logon or something like that, then when we're just on this page, then you can select the use semantic logon and so on. Then you can also use semantic logon to log into the PM add-ons. Okay, so let's go back to the. No, we don't want to save changes. Let's go back to the topology manager. I will close the alarm logging here. We have talked about the laboratory values, which you can add to an already finished or already closed batch. And this is what I want to show you in the last remaining 20 minutes. So we go first to the topology, and we will disable the automatic batch release because we need some time to enable the laboratory values, and if the batch is released, then it will be automatically exported, and when it's exported, it's finalized, and then we cannot add any more data. So we will disable this option so that we have some time to prepare the laboratory values. And for the laboratory values, we need another snapshot trigger. Before we can do that, we have to go back to the tag management and add a tag we can use for that. So let's go to that, and P1 LabWell, for example, and this is floating point number, doesn't matter, and then P1 trigger lab value, lab, doesn't matter, this is, okay, here. After we have added some new text, we have to go back to the PM server, to the station, and import the text again, so that we receive the new text. So we will run through this import wizard just to get access to the new text we have added. And now we can go back to the topology. Okay, so now we need a new trigger for the laboratory values, so lab values, math value, and we have to select the trigger event we want to use for that, and we want to use that one here. And when it changes to 1, this is okay. So if it's changing to 1, then we want to trigger this event. I forgot one tag. We have to go back and add a new tag for the batch name, P1 lab value batch name. Now we change that back to a text tag, maybe that one. And now we have to import this tag again. Remember, okay. So now we can add the laboratory batch name here. I missed one character, doesn't matter. So now that means if we have to, in the first step, we have to insert the batch name we want to add the laboratory values to. Then we have to trigger the event during a running batch, and then we can add the data we want to add here for the other batch then. So we have to configure which values we want to add, and then we would just want to have these two. Doesn't matter. So of course normally you have some, I have prepared another batch, another tag for that. Sometimes I'm thinking before doing something, and sometimes not. Right. So now we have a value we want to add after the batch is already closed. So it's that one here.
Mục tiêu cái này nó làm thêm là làm gì?
Give it a better name here.
Em nghĩ nó đang là yêu cầu nhập cái value từ phòng thí nghiệm.
To adding laboratory values to an
Này ghi ngược xuống anh Châu.
already closed batch.
Ghi ngược xuống hả?
Now save the changes.
Ghi được mà.
Load the changes.
Không biết nó làm cái này nè.
And we have to restart the data logging so that it knows or that it loaded that it can load
Chưa
that
hiểu,
we
chưa
have
hiểu.
Cái mục đích của nó làm gì?
so we restart the data logging. So we can now put it back to the background, and we have to modify our picture here
Giao diện.
so that we get
Có nghĩa
access
là
to
kết
the
thúc
new
một batch đó,
text I have
nhập cái số
added
gì của
to
phòng thí
tag
nghiệm vô để
management,
nó
of
lưu ở
course.
đây nè. Đang nghĩ như vậy. Coi phải không?
Make it a little bit bigger. Go to text. We want that one, that one, that one here. Then we need the batch name. This is the batch name lab value. Just so we know what this tag is about. Make it a little bit bigger. Then we have the trigger value. And then we need the laboratory value. So that one. Smaller here. This is okay. Not looking very well, but it's not about the looking, it's about the function. So we save the changes and load this picture. Okay, so in a first step, we need a new batch where we can add the laboratory values to. As you can see, all of the other batches are still finalized. That means we cannot modify these values, so we cannot add any laboratory values there. So I will first add a new batch or a new job, and then we can start a new batch based on that one. And we just add a second one where we then can use to add the laboratory values to the batch we have created before then. So it doesn't matter what's inside of this batch, right? Okay. So we can now load the first batch, which we then will use to add the laboratory values to. So we now get all of the data. We can now confirm that we have received the information and can start working on it. So we can start the batch here. So we see we have a new batch. We can now run through all of the phases, just that we receive some information. Change that one here, we change that one here, doesn't matter. Take all of our phases, all of our snapshots, run through the phases. So just that we receive some data inside of the report then. Okay, now we can close the batch again, and we can close the job, or we can finish the job inside of the PM control, and now we will start working on the next job. So we will request the next job, and inside of this job, so we have received the next data, so we can confirm that one. And during this batch, we will now start. We will want to add the laboratory values to the batch we have recorded before. So that means we have now the next active batch. So if we refresh that one, we see we have the next batch. We can run through all the phases and through the whole process, of course. But for us now, it's interesting to see how we can add the laboratory values. So, and for that, we first have to insert the batch name we want to add these laboratory values to. So in this case, it's A8_15_02. Of course, you can dynamize this a little bit if you have some more time to configure the picture of the WinCC runtime. Then, for example, if you select the if you select the batch inside of the batch list, then automatically write this information inside of this field, for example. So it's working like that. I do not want to have that much or to spend that much time in configuring the
Yêu cầu
real
ngược lại.
pages. So we're
Yêu
just
cầu cái batch,
typing it
chạy batch.
manually here. So we have now configured to which batch we want to add our laboratory values, and then of course we have to insert the value we want to add. For example, it's something like that. And if I now change the trigger value or the trigger tab, the trigger tag we have added to the snapshot group, then this snapshot should be recorded and should be saved inside of the batch we have mentioned here. So let's see if it's working. So if I change that one to 1, so now we should get the snapshot inside of this batch here. And of course now we can go through all of the other phases and whatever you do for the current batch. So make it like that, whatever. Go through all the phases here. And we will now close the batch so that everything is fine after that. Okay, so now we should have get the laboratory values for the other batch. And that we can see this information, we first have to modify the report we have created, because in the report at the moment there are no laboratory values added. So of course we have to add them first to the report before we can see the laboratory values in the report, of course. So we add them here, save that one, and now we back to the data view. And now hopefully everything is working. So it was that one here, and if we open the report for that one, of course we could have seen that in the preview, but I wanted to open the real report. And now if we scroll down, we see we have a laboratory value added to the batch after the batch was closed. So we see we have the batch end times now.
Ý nó là nó chèn một cái giá trị vô trong cái database của một cái job trước đó.
Để giống như là nó chèn một cái giá trị của một cái, sau khi mà làm cái batch đó xong, lấy cái đó đi đo thí nghiệm gì đó ra một cái kết quả, chèn cái kết quả đó vô cái batch đó. Hiểu không? Thay vì là không chèn được, tại vì bằng tay.
Trong SQL ví dụ như anh chạy hết tất cả thông số không, rồi còn có một cái thông số kết quả là đạt hay không đạt thôi. Thì sau kiểm xong là anh đạt thì bấm đạt xong insert cái giá trị đó vô trong cái
giống như mẻ này ra đúng không? Mẻ này ra xong là ok hết rồi.
Còn đấy là
đúng rồi.
chỉ là chạy trước chạy sau gì cũng
đâu